Welcome to Let's Talk Space Medicine. I'm Kyle Anderson, your medical student slash space nerd host. For your listening entertainment, I gather my other medically inclined space nerd friends to talk all things space medicine. With our powers combined, we hope to explore and entertain the medical questions that stand between us and the stars. Today's episode: carbon dioxide and long duration space missions. What a headache! During this episode, I was joined by my space nerd friend, Ryan, to try and explore the question: what are the medical consequences of chronic high levels of carbon dioxide when aboard the ISS? And does simply having medical grade oxygen on hand fix this? As a brief disclaimer, anything discussed on Let's Talk Space Medicine should not be considered medical advice, and is therefore not a substitute for seeking medical help from a doctor. We are simply interested at entertaining topics in the field of space medicine. Believe it or not, carbon dioxide doesn't just cause problems on Earth, where it is a significant driver of climate change. It also causes headaches aboard the International Space Station. Literally. The partial pressure of carbon dioxide on Earth is estimated to be around 0.3 millimeters of mercury, but spacecraft can be routinely kept at over 10 times this amount, ranging from 2.3 to 5.3 millimeters of mercury. And astronauts have experienced increased headaches corresponding to increased periods of carbon dioxide levels. This is simply because life support systems cannot feasibly keep up with the CO2 generated by astronauts, where one individual can generate CO2 at a rate of roughly 1 kilogram or 2.2 pounds per day, that simply cannot be removed in a cost-effective manner. Recently, carbon dioxide might be even more of a nuisance because the ISS has welcomed 4 new crewmates aboard the first operational launch of the SpaceX Crew Dragon to reach an all-time high occupancy of 7. The fact that life support systems can't keep CO2 down to earthly levels may point out an important cost-benefit relationship taking place within the human spaceflight community, or engineering limitations that will have serious implications for prolonged space missions. What I mean is that life support systems take a tremendous amount of time, energy, and money just to design and manufacture. On top of that, these life support systems are not weightless, and launching them therefore comes at a premium. Even further, these systems do not operate flawlessly and have to be turned off periodically for maintenance. So it seems to me that the costs and logistics have, at least at this point, outweighed the relative benefit of reducing carbon dioxide. But what exactly are the consequences of keeping carbon dioxide levels that high? Is it only headaches? And how can this condition be medically managed? A greater than normal carbon dioxide saturation of the blood is called hypercapnia, and is probably most often encountered in patients with chronic obstructive pulmonary disease on Earth. COPD is characterized by destruction of the lung tissue that results in increased physiological dead space within the lungs. This simply means that there is more space in the lungs where air cannot be effectively ventilated. The end result is that there is a chronic retention of carbon dioxide rich air that can lead to respiratory acidosis if not managed correctly. If unchecked, hypercapnia can lead to serious problems such as difficulty in breathing, dizziness, increased intracranial pressure, and in the extreme, eventual coma and death. Interestingly, these patients are often given supplemental oxygen as a part of their treatment plan, but this can actually have a potential negative consequence in decreasing their respiratory drive. Under normal circumstances, the stimulus to breathe is based on carbon dioxide levels sensed by the central chemoreceptors. However, when under chronic hypercapnic conditions, the respiratory drive can be shifted more towards the peripheral chemoreceptors that detect the level of oxygen saturation, and, as a consequence, when oxygen is given, it can suppress the drive to breathe in these patients. Furthermore, when oxygen is administered, it causes a change in hemoglobin binding, known as the Haldane effect, that would result in even more CO2 being dissolved in the blood. Clinical management, as a result, could require further ventilatory measures, such as a bag valve mask or endotracheal intubation, as well as possibly the need for IV access and obtaining an arterial blood gas. While it is unknown whether the hypercapnic conditions aboard the ISS have actually altered the respiratory drive of astronauts, medical grade oxygen may not be as clear-cut of a solution as one might think. This is especially the case when considering much longer duration space missions to the Moon and Mars. In addition, oxygen of this sort is a consumable item and would therefore be hard to sustain on a long duration mission, making the ideal solution likely a more effective life support system that can handle the carbon dioxide being generated by astronauts. Furthermore, best practices on performing endotracheal intubation in microgravity and obtaining an arterial blood gas should be explored. Of note, an arterial blood gas involves placement of a central line, and other options exist such as a earlobe-based blood gas, which could be an attractive alternative. So, what do you think? Does carbon dioxide present a looming problem for life support engineers to tackle before attempting riskier missions to the Moon and Mars? Or does having oxygen on board for periods of extreme hypercapnia provide a more realistic solution? Thanks for listening to Let's Talk Space Medicine. If you want to continue the discussion and meet more fellow space nerds, be sure to check out @TalkSpaceMed on Twitter and the Nexus Aurora server on Discord. Thanks, and see you next episode.